Hi, my name is Natalie. I enjoy doing a variety of crafts and arts. Let's start today with some jelly printing. This is a jelly plate that I made myself. I have it mounted here on a cutting board or cutting mat from the Dollar Tree. And that allows me to pick it up and move it, to put it away and store it. Let's put some cerulean blue on the mat here on the jelly plate and some Sunny Day apple barrel paint. The cerulean blue is a heavy bodied paint and the Sunny Day is a matte acrylic paint. The yellow is just a 50-cent bottle from Walmart. So we're going to roll this. I'm going to keep it all in one direction today. I don't mind how much it mixes here because I know some of the layers will not be mixed. We'll have a variety of colors. I'm going to take my extra paint and roll it off on the jelly plate to my right there. And then we'll make a print off of this later. And then on the left, I have some scratch paper or some other paper that I'm going to roll extra paint off onto too. So there's still a little too much paint on my plate to make a good print. So we're going to roll some more of that off. This is my first YouTube video, so please excuse any gaps in the recording or places where I stumble along. I'm trying to remember exactly what I did here when I recorded this a few days ago. So we're going to take our first print here, and I've decided to use some Rolodex cards to pull some of that paint off with. And these will make a great projects later down the road. I'm just going to line a bunch of them up here. Here's a tag that I used for a print, and I wasn't very happy with the way it turned out, so we'll use that. We'll have that for a later project. And we'll fill up all the space with these Rolodex cards. So the last one that I put on here is only going to be about 2/3 covered in paint, but that's okay. We'll pick up some paint a little bit later on and fill in the rest of the space with that. So let's take a piece of paper and put that over the top, and we'll rub the whole thing, give it some good pressure, give that paint some time to adhere to the cards before we pull those off. Nice even pressure all over. And then we'll use this piece of paper, scratch paper or paint roll-off paper later. Nothing goes to waste. We'll use it all. So let's start pulling these cards off and see how they look. Ooh, I really like how these are turning out. Now the cerulean blue is going to keep a little bit of a shinier coat to it, where like I said, the yellow is a matte. It's going to dry matte. We have them going different directions here, so that's pretty cool. Here's the one that doesn't have quite enough paint on it, so let's put this back down, pick up some more paint with that. We'll give that a minute to adhere while we pull off some others. Now this one has a gap in it. That's okay. Probably I didn't press all the way into that corner, or there was maybe a low spot in my plate. So here we've got the rest of the paint on that. I really like how the paint's going different directions on that. And the last one of those Rolodex cards, very nicely covered. You'll see where there was a bit of a blob of some sort on my jelly plate, left a mark in that paint. And finally the card here, the shipping label card. We'll use that later for another project. Alright, so you can see we have a lot of gaps where most of the paint had already been pulled off of the jelly plate. So I'm going to put some antique copper metallic. This is a folk art paint. I really like these metallic paints on the jelly plate. I get just stunning results with them. I have a variety, they make a variety of colors of metallics, and I really enjoy using them on this type of a project. So we really wanted to get those gaps filled in good, so I started with just pouring the paint in those areas. You can see as I'm rolling here, some of that blue is working like a resist, but that's okay. It's still wet, and it's still going to work for making a print. So we're going to go and roll off some of that extra paint, make sure it's all even. I'm going to put it on that jelly plate on the side. Don't worry about layers. When you're jelly printing, every layer adds interest. So I really like having different layers, different colors. You never know what's going to come through next. So we'll put a piece of paper over that. Now this is a little bit larger than standard size paper. I think it is 8.5 by 14. It's some paper I've had in my craft room for years and years and years, and works great. It's just copy paper, but it's a larger size. Works great for this jelly printing. So let's pull this off and see what we got. You can see where that metallic antique copper has come through and where the gaps were, but we still have some yellow and the blue. The blue has become more sheer since we pulled some prints off the beginning, and there wasn't as much of it left on the plate. I really like all the crusty bits on here. We'll see what we come up with that. We're going to put a little more paint on here. I was originally thinking of using the Inca Gold. I changed my mind here and decided to use the antique copper again. So let's pour some of that on here, and then we'll spread that around. Now I usually have a couple of rollers to spread paint with. It's not really necessary, but sometimes it's nice to just have an extra one to grab. So we'll roll some of that extra paint off on the plate on the side. Now I'm going to pick up a stencil here. I believe this is a Diane Reveley stencil. It's got some numbers on one side and letters along. That's a really good size for this particular jelly plate that I have here. So I'm going to put that down, then I'm going to take a piece of paper over and pick up some of the paint through the openings. Now this will make a really interesting print as well. We can use it as a base to do another print over the top, or leave it just as it is to use it in a project. You can start to see where it's picking up the paint through the grooves in the stencil. It's picked up all kinds of bits off the plate, so there's a variety of colors in there. Now we're going to put the Inca Gold on. And then we're just going to spread this through those openings. Fill in that area. Just get a nice even coat. Keep rolling until you get it in there. Now sometimes I find that paint starts to peel back up on my roller. Here in Arizona, things dry pretty quickly, so but don't worry about it if that happens. I think we see later on that there's an area where some paint has peeled up, and we just go with it. So when I lift the stencil up, it has taken actually quite a bit of the paint off of the jelly plate that was there before, the antique copper that I had there. So I don't want to waste all of that paint that it's picked up, so I'm going to sandwich it between my roll-off paper here and another piece of paper and try to rub some of that paint off so that we can utilize those crusty bits that came up off of the plate. Okay, so here's the first print we did. It's dried a little bit. Let's put it back down there and pick up that gold with it. Again, I'm giving nice even pressure all over, trying to get as much of that picked up as possible. When we pull it off, now we can see the stencil and the gold over the top of that copper and cerulean blue and yellow. Lots of layers here. That'll make a really interesting project to use for a book page or some other project later on. And then let's take a look at what paint came off of that stencil. Well, this one's so-so. Maybe we'll use that, do something else with it. And this turned out very interesting. So this is the paint that rolled off, and then it was that gold paint that was on the stencil. So let's put some more blue paint down here. As I said, this is a heavy body acrylic, but we're going to put a thin coat on this time. I'm going to put it on the jelly plate next to me so that I can roll it a little thinner before I put it onto my large jelly plate. Now, I have quite a few layers on here, but that won't matter. Now, this is a store-bought brand name jelly plate. So we'll roll it out a bit here, cover this plate too. And then we'll put some light layers on top of the gold that was left on from the stencil. This heavy body acrylic takes a little longer to dry, so I'll have plenty of time to work with it. We'll see what we got. I'm going to get a clean sheet of paper here to use as my roll-off because I really like that print that I got from the paint that came off the stencil. Let's use this one. It wasn't so good to begin with, so we'll use it over again. We'll put it on there and see what we get with this print. Again, nice even pressure. While that paint's taking a moment to adhere, I think we'll pick up the paint that is on the other jelly plate, the smaller one. This is just a book page from a dictionary that I was using as an art project. It's just the right size for this jelly plate. Let's see what we get on these prints. So here's the first one. I really like how sheer that blue was. You can see the paint that was on here from the previous print that we went over the top of. And there's still some blue left on my jelly plate there. And here's that dictionary page, all the different layers that we put on that jelly plate. You see there's still some crusty bits left behind there. So we have that blue left, and it's very sheer, but I think that'll make a nice print of some sort. So let's put some metallic paint on here. This is a metallic, I believe it's a metallic rose color. That same Folk Art brand. And we'll just use this to pick up the last of that blue paint. Now you notice I haven't cleaned my jelly plate in between any of these colors. When you get towards the end of your printing time, just put a nice coating on and of a fairly liquid paint, and quite often you'll find that it will clean your plate right up for you and you won't have to use anything to wet it down with. Now you see some of the paint peeled back up on that as I was rolling it, and that's because some of the paints dries super fast here in Arizona. But that's okay. We'll print something else over the top of this most likely. We'll use this just as a base. So again, as always, a nice even pressure, and when we peel it up, voila, the plate is almost perfectly clean. And I have this interesting print with the blues and the metallic pink. And you can see where the paint had peeled up. Gives it a vintagey kind of look. So here are the prints that we did today. There's the last one we did, clean the plate. Here's that sheer blue one with a little bit of the gold metallic left over from the stencil. And here was the roll-off sheet with some of the paint that came off of the stencil. And then this is our full print with the two different layers on it. And here's the print that we pulled up through the stencil when we were doing that layer. Here are some photos of today's prints. Thanks for joining me today. I hope to see you again. Bye-bye.